Greetings, GERO 200. Today is Sunday, June 27th, and this is the last video lecture.
It's been a fun ride, though. You guys have learned a lot, all right? So it's very cool. Hopefully you enjoyed the class.
Yes, I know it's been fast. Okay, so just a few reminders. I will also send this out in an email. Your midterm 2 exam opened this morning at 12 a.m. and it will stay open until Friday at the end of the day. We have a very small window where we have to put our grades in, so you got to get it done by the end of the day Friday. If you have any problems during the exam, let us know. There shouldn't be any problems, but there's always a solution if you have problems. Also, your final interview paper is due tomorrow, Monday, June 28th.
Right here.
And your last quiz and discussion are due Friday evening by the end of the day. And I'll send an email out with all the reminders when we're done with
There's
this.
your interview paper, frequently asked questions, okay, the rubric. You don't have to use those questions. We just throw them out there. Again, this is where you upload right here.
Yes,
okay.
And I'll send a reminder out if I don't get a paper from you by Tuesday morning. Remember, the place where people usually lose points is not having the 10 outside references. That means references that did not come from the class. You can use WebMD. You can use any reputable news outlet. You can use nonprofit organizations like the American Diabetes Association, the American Alzheimer's Association. Just go into Google.
Yeah. New York Times, it doesn't matter.
Go into Google, type diabetes incidents and throw it into your paper.
Washington Post, it's all BBC, it's all good. All right, let's go.
All righty, so we are at the last assignment. We're going to talk about estate planning and long-term care. So we're going to go ahead and open that up. And I wanted to include two different articles with two different perspectives on estate planning. One is from the American Bar Association. So, of course, this is the nationwide organization for lawyers. They want you to hire an attorney, not surprisingly, to prepare your will or trust and any other documents that you might need, like a durable power of attorney for financial. If you have a lot of money, it's really important to get this right because you could have people challenging the will, you can have problems. Having said that, the AARP takes the point of view that it's better to have a will than to not have a will at all. And we certainly know that a lot of people in our society in the US die without wills or any sort of estate planning having been done. So AARP says, hey, if you don't have the money to go out and hire an estate planning attorney, here are some free websites where you can go draft a will and you can draft documents. You can also buy software. I think Quicken makes a will and trust maker. So there's ways for you to get your estate planning in order for either no cost or maybe $100. If you hire an estate planning attorney, it's probably going to start around $1,000 and may go up from there. Now, the benefit, for example, we have a trust that we set up. That means we avoid probate. So you're paying money on the front end so that you don't have to pay an attorney money to deal with probate on the back end. Okay, so what you do with your estate plan, or what your parents or your family members do with their estate plan,
open your quiz too,
is going to depend on where you live and how complex your family situation is and how much money you have. So let's say you die without a will. If you die without a will, the state decides who gets your property. So they have something called intestate, meaning you didn't have a will, succession. And they will say typically that it goes to your spouse and your children. If you aren't married and don't have kids, it might go to your parents next, or your siblings, and eventually it would go out to your aunts and uncles, cousins, whatever.
So it's the obvious succession.
Obvious
line of succession.
Yeah, but
maybe things aren't so obvious in terms of your family relationship.
Unfortunately, if you die without a will, someone's going to have to go into court and open a probate case, and it's going to cost money. So, as an example, my cousin, her husband's aunt had a will, but the will was invalid because she didn't follow the appropriate steps to get her will signed and witnessed, and it didn't have the appropriate things to make it a qualified will in the state where she lived. So she had a decent amount of money and property, and that didn't pass the way she wanted it to pass to her brother's children. It's now tied up in court. It's been a year or so since she died, and there's no end in sight, and money is being given not to her heirs, but to the court and to the attorney for the estate. So it's a mess.
And right here you see this real fun word, beneficiary. That really needs to be set into motion in terms of your statement, because your parents have probably IRAs or 403bs or 401ks. They have just their own investment accounts, and it just makes it so much easier if it's just written into those that if I die, these people get my money and this X percentage and this, and have the beneficiaries all set into motion.
Yeah. So what John is pointing out is that not all of your property passes through your will or your trust or through a probate case in court. You have some property like a bank account, a savings account, your retirement account at work, an IRA, things like that pass your life insurance. Those pass outside of the estate process, and it passes directly to the named beneficiaries. Now, if you don't have named beneficiaries, or if you haven't updated them in a while, bad things can happen. So let's say you went through a really tough divorce 20 years ago and you never updated your beneficiaries. It is possible that if you died, your ex-partner, who you hate now, could get all of your life insurance, all of your 401k, and your kids would get nothing. I've seen cases where that happens. So all of you probably have an app on your phone. That's my dog. You all have an app on your phone for your bank account. So whether you have $5 or $5 million in your bank account, go into your bank account app and poke around until you find the thing on your bank account that allows you to say who gets your bank account if you die. None of you are planning on dying. However, it's just a nice thing to do, and it's nice to have the paperwork in place should it be needed at some point in the future. Okay, so when you do create a will, you're passing the property that would be part of your estate. So not your bank account if you've done this beneficiary, not your IRA or your 401k if you've done the beneficiary statement. It's going to be your car, your home if you own a home, your personal property, so your clothing, your jewelry, etc., and that other property that would be considered part of your estate. You can certainly title your car jointly. Most people don't do that. Some people do that with their bank accounts. You might have a bank account where you add a second person. You might have a grandmother or something that wanted to add another person to the bank account. That can be a mistake, because remember, once you put that person's name on the bank account, they can clean it out and you don't have anything that you can say about it. So it's better in that case to make someone an authorized user of the account so that they can write checks.
When you do your interview paper, ask your parents, hey, am I a beneficiary of life insurance, retirement plans, accounts?
That's an often awkward conversation to have. However, I will say when my mom passed away and when John's mom passed away, it was a really amazing, thoughtful gift that they left us, that they had everything really organized and set up so that we didn't have to really
because sometimes you have idiot siblings and then you're arm wrestling and they're like, no, I had a conversation and she said she was going to give me 75% and you only get 10%.
That happened in my family, but whatever. It's okay because we had a will that was signed and everything was legit. So, anyway, I shouldn't be laughing. It's actually a really serious topic. Okay, so let's scroll down a little bit. You can also, let's say that you don't have very much money, you don't have very much property, and you're thinking, why would I bother having a will? I'm 26, I have one child. You still need a will to designate a guardian for your child so that that doesn't become a free-for-all. So even if you don't have much property to pass on, it's a good idea if you have any children or other dependents to designate, to set up a will to designate a guardian for your minor children. And
Because you can have a bad sibling and you die and they become your kid's guardian and then they steal your kid's blind from all the assets that they were beneficiaries for.
that is total speculation. It did not actually happen in my family,
But it could.
could have happened. Anyway, you're going to designate an executor. That is the person who's going to handle your estate when it gets wrapped up. John was designated his mother's executor, but quite often it's your spouse if you're married. It can be one of your children. In our will, I think if I die, John's my executor, but if he's unable to serve, then my oldest son and then my youngest son in that order. And those are the people that have to get all of your documents together, figure out what your assets are, figure out, did you have life insurance? How many bank accounts do you have? How many, IRAs or 401ks do you have? And they help settle everything. So pick someone that's good at paperwork and doesn't mind filing a tax return. So, okay. What does a will not do? Again, as we mentioned earlier, a will does not transfer non-probate property. So things that pass automatically by operation of law or by contract, such as a beneficiary designation, do not fall underneath the will. So if you have a life insurance policy and you've designated your best friend as the beneficiary, but your will said that all of your money goes to your sister, your best friend will still get all of that life insurance proceeds because that money never enters the estate.
And IRA, remember, stands for an individual retirement account, of which you guys are setting up right now.
Yes, so it's a very important process. When you start to save, whether it's in an individual brokerage account or a 401k or an IRA, it's a very important process. You get excited, you set up your account, you choose your investments, you're like, yay, I'm done. No, you've got to fill out the beneficiary paperwork. And the way we've done it, and I highly advise this as a lawyer, I always like to have my primary beneficiary, and then if that person predeceases me, I've got secondary contingent beneficiaries. So John's my primary beneficiary, and then if he predeceases me, my two children share our contingent beneficiaries, and they share 50-50. So good for them. So how do you execute a will? Typically, it doesn't matter what state you're in, you need to have some index of reliability. So you're either going to sign it in the presence of witnesses, and at least one or more of those witnesses should not be inheriting under the will, so they have no motivation to lie about it, or you're going to do it in front of a notary public who's going to guarantee that your signature, they've looked at your identification and your signature is legitimate, and they've proven that your signature is correct. So every state could have potentially slightly different requirements in terms of who can be a witness, but typically you have to be over 18, of sound mind, etc.
With our friends, the Cliftons, down the
Yes,
street.
our neighbors. We had them come down and sign documents for us.
They did it the first time, they did it the
and they were
second
very,
time.
very
They're
nice.
great.
We had a lot of documents that they had to sign. And again, in your will, you may distribute personal property. So you may say, John gets 100% of my personal property, or you may say, well, my mother's ring, I want to go to this person or that person,
And that actually
etc.
weirdly kind of happened with my mom. One little thing that she never talked about it. And I love these stories. And so my oldest brother did the caregiving for my mom, and he deserves a lot and a lot of credit. And then it came down, and my mom had inherited the diamond ring from my dad's mom. So it was just the matriarch. The ring was passed on, and then I mentioned to my brother, my mom's dad with the ring on her finger, and I said, yeah, maybe Julie. No, 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 no. I want her to be buried, with the ring. And so, a week after we left the cemetery, people are in there taking the rings off her fingers, and who knows? But in retrospect, my brother said, I should have given that ring to Julie. So there
But
you go.
And what the story points out is that the estate planning process and the estate settling process can be very emotional. It's good to remember that it's all just stuff, and whether you get money or property doesn't affect the actual quality of the relationship you have with the person who's passed on. But grief can complicate these things too. So let's scroll down a little bit. If you jointly own property, either a bank account or real estate, when you own as joint tenants with right of survivorship, when you die, then that title then vests in the remaining person. So it doesn't go, again, it doesn't go through your probate estate. It's not governed underneath your will. So we have our home in a trust, but if I owned this home as joint tenant with right of survivorship with John, and I die, and my will says I'm leaving the house to, um, LeBron James, because he needs more stuff. Um, LeBron James wouldn't get anything because the second I die, John has total right to the property. So that's how joint tenancy with right of survivorship. But again, if you have a joint tenancy on your car or a joint tenants on your bank account, then that other person would then own the bank account. There's a little statement here which kind of reaffirms what I said before. Be careful when you make someone a joint tenant for your bank account because they can take all the money, etc. So, okay, go down, go down, go down, go down. Trusts are a mechanism that it really depends on what state you're in. I like to have a trust in California because the courts are pretty busy here and lawyers are expensive here. So trusts are a way to avoid probate. So our house is in the name of our trust. So if I die, if John dies, it's effortless. It's just a matter of filing a document with Orange County, and then immediately our children would have the house in their names, and they would be able to, if they wanted to sell it, they would be able to immediately list the property for sale. The people next door passed away. Really sweet people, lived to be in their 90s, and they both passed away within a month of each other. And I think it was a little bit, they didn't have a trust. It was a little bit of a struggle for their family members to get through that probate process. And then while you're in probate.
So months go on where somebody has to pay the mortgage.
Yes, so you've got to pay the mortgage, and that can be a hard thing to do if you haven't left assets to your family members so that they can pay the mortgage and maintain the property while the probate process is ongoing. Now, having said that, it's not true in every state. When my mom passed away, she lived outside New Orleans, and the process there for probate is very simple. It was a matter of weeks, not months or years. It was just very, very quick and easy. And, we did have an attorney that filed the documents for us back there, but it wasn't a big deal. So trusts weren't as common in her area as they are out here. So you can have a trust that you create where you are the trust grantor. You're the person that has the property and you're granting it to the trust. Typically, a trust created during your lifetime is called a living trust. And then you have a very lengthy document, I think ours is like 20 pages long, that talks about who has the right to do what. And it names who's going to manage the trust, who the beneficiaries are of the trust. You can have a revocable trust, which most people do, because what if things change? Or you can have an irrevocable trust. But either way, the idea of the trust is that you're going to avoid probate and make things, you pay a little money in advance to avoid the stress and difficulty and hardship when the person passes away. So when John's mom passed away, she had her house in a trust. She left it to his middle brother who had lived with her and taken care of her. And we took him down to a probate attorney, and that probate attorney filed the paperwork, got the house transferred into his name. So it was very, very easy. Okay. And so if you have children and you don't have a lot of assets, you still might want to have a trust, because you might want to envision a situation where you name one person the guardian of your children and a different person responsible for the financial aspects. So you might have a person in your life that's very nurturing and a really great parent and someone you would trust to raise your kid, but you wouldn't necessarily trust them with the money. So if you want someone else to manage the money to take care of your children down the line, that might be a way to accomplish that with a trust. So annuities and retirement benefits, we talked about this in prior weeks. I get a pension, which is awesome, from a job that I had previously as an attorney. And I started collecting it early because I figured, why not? And I have named John as a beneficiary of that pension.
There's that word.
And a beneficiary. And if I die, he gets almost the same amount that I'm collecting. And they live so long in his family that it makes me happy to know that he will be able to collect that pension for 30, 40 more years.
I feel like she's going to die first. And that sucks.
But I will die laughing because he's going to get a good pension.
No, you're not.
So anyway.
She's 7 years younger than me.
Pensions aren't as common as they used to be. But anyway, if you are lucky enough to work for a company that does offer a pension, when you retire, you have to select an option that says, I want 100% of the benefit just for me, and then when I die, it goes away. Or in my case, it's not a huge pension because I didn't work there for a huge long time. However, in my case, it was literally like $25 a month difference for me to only have the benefit in my lifetime versus me giving it to John if I predecease him.
And with the annuities, you just got to be careful how they're written up. I think back in the day, people used to take advantage, and the annuity, when the person died, would go to the insurance company. You wouldn't get the funds. Now they're set up so that the beneficiary will continue to get that annuity, which is it's a guaranteed amount of income. But again, there's a lot more costs involved and fees involved.
And the type of annuity that they're talking about here is probably through your employer, or if you are a union member, through your union, and then they purchase an annuity on your behalf. So it's part of your retirement plan. So, and the costs are probably fine.
A lot of some people get scammed into converting their IRAs into an annuity, and then they didn't read the fine print. And
because typically annuities pay a healthy commission to the person who sells it to you, so they do have a financial incentive to have you buy an annuity. Now, there's a little part in there that's kind of interesting. Go up just a little tiny bit. Okay, so typically, if you're married, the expectation is going to be that you name your wife as the beneficiary for your retirement plan or your life insurance. I have handled cases, though, where someone was married and had a girlfriend and named his girlfriend as the beneficiary, and that put our benefits department in an awkward situation because they needed to confirm with his wife that she was okay with it. So as you can see, problems can ensue. So anyway, go down to life insurance. If you have life insurance, typically you're going to designate a beneficiary to the life insurance, or you could make the life insurance payable to your estate or to your trust. And it really depends. If your children are underage, if you have minor children, you would typically have the life insurance proceeds go to a trust or go to your estate because of the complication of a minor child inheriting the funds. Okay, so that's everything.
Alrighty.
Okay.
So, and obviously the ARP one is a reiteration, but compressed. That we can take a look at the form, but
and the big difference with the AARP is that they're saying, hey, too many people in our country do not do estate planning because they don't know how to find a lawyer and they don't have the money to pay for a lawyer. But a very large percentage of people haven't gone through those steps. So
something's better than nothing.
Yeah, and so they have some resources here, and I have not used them, but Free Will looks like a reasonable website. Some of these places you can go in, fill out some information, get something printed out immediately.
Here's a quick one right here.
Just make sure that if you go through one of these processes to create your will, that you're going to need to either get a notary public to verify your signature, or you're going to need to have it signed with the appropriate witnesses. So make sure you read the directions properly. And and as a lawyer, yes, I'd rather have everyone go to see a great lawyer, but I'd also rather have everyone in the country have a will or a trust, a durable power of attorney for healthcare, and a durable power of attorney for financial, so that that would make life a lot easier for everyone in the event that problems happen.
Look, they even use Zoom.
Yeah, and it is a good idea. Everyone has a different kind of family communication style. John's mom was really open with us and gave us copies of all of her documents and said, "Hey, this is what's going
And
on,"
she
you
was
know.
super prepared. Now,
And she
my
was
mom
very
would be
prepared, very
close
organized,
to
which
100
was,
now.
yeah. So
It's amazing.
that was really awesome. And yeah, so but not every family is
Yeah.
going to feel that comfortable talking to their children or their family members about what their plans
And
are.
these are individual case studies that are interesting, So I don't know if you want to talk about them now, but you can if you
No, but
want.
I was going through them and it was just kind of interesting. One of the comments that they said here, and this definitely happened with us during COVID, I felt some urgency to update our estate planning because we just didn't know in the early days of COVID what was going to happen, and we were really careful. But I'm very vulnerable, and because I'm immunocompromised, and so we did. That was when we said, okay, we knew that when our kids got to be over 18, that we should probably at some point update our estate planning documents. And then when my mom passed away a few years ago, that made it even more urgent because she had been my decision maker after John. So we ended up updating all the documents and then getting both of our kids to have their own durable power of attorney for healthcare and financial. So everybody had, we had like 15 documents that had to be signed and witnessed by our neighbors.
So Maria said they made So we made wills when the kids were small, all right, and then they had to update it, and So it's all this. It's important stuff.
Yeah,
These are fun case studies,
and
and we're not,
as we've mentioned before, as you go through life, your feelings about some of these things are going to change, and so it's a good idea to go every 5 years and kind of take a look at your documents and update them. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the discussion, which is about long-term care. And we have a little article from the NIA, the National Institute on Aging, about long-term care. So I think that long-term care is going to look different in the future than it does now. We have traditionally had nursing homes, institutional settings. Then we added assisted living, which is a little bit like living in a college dorm, only for old people because they have like a dining hall and there's people will come do your laundry if you pay for it,
there's
etc.
video here.
Yeah, and you can watch the video.
We're not going to watch with you.
Typically, people need long-term care who need help with what we call activities of daily living. So go back up. Go back up. Yes. So bathing, dressing, grooming, using the toilet, eating, moving around, getting in and out of bed. And so when you get to that point where you're starting to have trouble with one or more of those activities of daily living, you have a couple options. You can go directly into an institutional type setting like assisted living. If you need skilled nursing care, you might go into a nursing home. Sometimes people go for a short period of time after surgery. Sometimes people go there and that's where they're going to live forever. You also might be able to get in-home services. So there is a movement right now to put money into community and in-home services so that more people can stay in their homes longer, which is what most people want to do. And you might have meals delivered. You might have, for people with dementia, you might have adult daycare options. Certainly getting transportation as people get older, it's hard to get to the doctor, it's hard to get to the grocery store and to run your errands. So this is something that may be offered in different communities by the government, by your city or county government.
And even private industry, I mean, it's waiting for you guys to come up with a plan, kind of a Uber or Lyft version of home health aid,
Absolutely, yeah.
where you take the high road and fully vet the people that would be doing the services, because that's the big concern is that, that you're not insured, scams could happen, but you could become this custom company and people know, because people always want to live in place. They don't want to go, to nursing homes. They don't have to if they can live in place. And you have this, this Uber service, it could be the bomb.
So I think this is going to be a huge growth industry in the next, 20, 30, 40 years to have more attention paid to providing services in the home.
And if you haven't figured it out from this class, us baby boomers, we have all the money. So we'll spend it on this new business that you have developed.
And that's what I want. I want an app on my phone so that
Yes.
when I need someone to repair something on my house, I can click on the app. And when I need someone to come take me for a walk around the block, I can click on the app. So who needs long-term care? As you get older, you're more likely to need long-term care. The average age of the patient in a nursing home is probably a little bit over 80. Tends to be more women than men because women tend to live longer and they tend to outlive their spouses. If you are single, you're more likely to need long-term care because you may not have a support system in place. And if you are, if you've had kind of a rough life with bad diet and bad exercise, you're more likely to have chronic health conditions
That would
that
happen,
can,
predicted to happen earlier in life.
yeah, and you may have a family history or your own health history if you're diabetic or you have heart disease. Or my stepdad, for example, right now is in a rehab facility, and not the drug rehab kind, the old person nursing home kind, because he has he's had a hip replacement, he's had a knee replacement, he's had extensive back surgery, and his hip replacement popped out of the socket, and he can't walk. So he wasn't able to stay at home anymore, and they put him into a rehab facility to see if they could strengthen him before he has the hip revision. So people like that, and unfortunately he lives in Florida, and we're out here. Um, People like that who have this history of a lot of different orthopedic problems and surgeries, they end up in long-term care. Okay. So you can also hire unskilled, what we call home aides, that aren't paid for by insurance. They're paid for out of pocket, and they will come in. And he has done this in the past for many years. He's had them come in. They help him get dressed in the morning. They make his breakfast, and then they come back again in the evening and make his dinner and help him get undressed. And they'll do some laundry and stuff like that, and tidy up the house a little bit for him, so that he's able to still live independently, except for right now, because he gets help from home aides. And again, we talked about senior transportation services. The other thing that I think is a really, I think, blossoming area are emergency technology. So we've heard about Life Alert and I've fallen and I can't get up. That's an old commercial you guys probably don't remember. What I'm seeing people say now is, I have an Apple Watch that I use that says if I've fallen, and then that can be less expensive for some people than getting an emergency medical alert system. But there's a lot of room for technology. I would love to have in place with my stepdad something that tells me, hey, he hasn't opened the refrigerator yet today, or he hasn't used the bathroom yet today, just to know, okay, he might be lying in bed in trouble, and I need to go get someone to go check on
You
him.
can just envision, because you guys are the next gen, the future of these technologies. It may become a lot more standard to have cameras put into place all around the house. Especially if you get an agreement with this older person that you're looking after, and that way you can see what's going on.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of room for improvement there. So if you go back to I think that's everything. Go back to the assignment page.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay. Now the other thing to scare the bejesus out of you is the cost of long-term care. So click on that. That takes you to the website. And you can look and click again, and I hope it doesn't do that
No,
thing.
that's how it goes.
Okay, okay. So this is kind of an interesting little website that will make you sad about the cost of long-term care. So let's, can you put the cursor there? I will type in right here.
Okay.
Oops, I will type in, oops, USC's zip code. So we're Los Angeles, and I'm going to look at the annual cost. And then I'm going to take this future cost and I'm going to say, what's it going to be like in, say, 20 years? 20 years. So if I scroll down, it will say, what are the annual median costs for different types of long-term care? So check this out. If you want a semi-private room, so kind of like living in Pardee, where you have a roommate that's 4 feet from you at all times, it's going to cost $175,000 in 2040. So by the time I need it, that's how much money I'm going to have to budget. This is where not planning ahead can really create problems.
Annual.
That's annual. So that's a big, heavy thing. Unfortunately, the more money you have, the better care you're going to get when you're older. A private room would be over 200 and almost $229,000. Assisted living facilities, I personally think these costs are low. $108,000 a year for an assisted living facility in 2040. I think that cost is low because right now I certainly know people that are paying $10,000 a month.
Remember, there's a big difference between the cat. Here, you're just cruising. You just want to, don't want to have to deal with mowing the lawn and blah blah that kind of stuff. But you're in good health. Here, of course, you're in pretty poor health.
You need skilled nursing, yeah. So yes, so adult daycare, that's just like regular daycare for kids, only you're taking your mom or dad or aunt or uncle and you're dropping them off somewhere where they're going to have some activities and they're going to be kept busy during the day. And so that's $35,000 a year.
And this is a fun, look at this sliding scale
Yeah.
and how much the cost of living
Now
is changing.
I want to go up and I'm going to press on hourly and then scroll back down again. So typically when you hire people to come into your home, you might have a home or what they call homemaker services, home aides. You're going to pay close to $30 an hour now in Los Angeles for a home health aide or a home aide. And these are people that are going to come in and help you get dressed. They might make some food for you. They might do a little bit of light housework. They might help you get bathed, things like that. So that can add up pretty quickly if they're making $30 an hour and you need them. Typically, they will require a minimum of, say, 4 hours a day. So, so let's say it's $120 a day, 7 days a week. That adds up too. But at least you're in your home. So it's something to think about. Again, this is something where I feel like we could. There's a lot of room for improvement in this area. We could certainly maybe have more use of technology. We can have, college students that do this as an internship or something like that. But yeah.
You can begin to see why it's so important to save for your retirement
Yes,
years.
you got to be ready, guys, or have a lot of friends and family.
Obviously, nobody wants to go this route, but it's common enough that you want to be prepared accordingly. And if you don't use your money for this type of assistance, then fine, then your kids get it or wherever. You write a check to USC.
Yeah. Now, in a perfect world, as we've talked in prior weeks, we have a multi-generational home. So we've got grandparents and parents and children living in the same home or close to each other. And we, as family members, can split that care, amongst a community of people. And so grandma and grandpa are happy because they're getting attention and they're getting to be with their grandkids and their kids. And then everyone else is happy, hopefully, because no one person is being asked to do everything. So you can split that among brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandchildren. Everyone's helping grandma and grandpa out a little bit.
In Japan, they call it a moai. And these moais are extended family members and even community, like Julie said, a community of people of support where we all look out for each other. It's kind of cool.
So that's something definitely in the US that we could do a lot better in terms of valuing and treating our elders and having more of a family commitment. But, unfortunately, what's happened in the US is we tend to disperse. So it's unusual for people to stay in the same community where they grew up, where their family members are. And that does complicate things a lot.
So here's some other, we're not going to go through all this, but we encourage you to show some curiosity and check out these different components of this website. It's just full of information, which is really cool. All right.
Okay. So I think that's everything.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm getting sad because it's over. Summer's over, guys. You guys have done a great job. Congrats. Hopefully you have taken a lot from this class. Have these conversations now with your aunties, uncles, with your parents and grandparents. Now you know.
And if you are having any problems, let us know. Once we turn the grades in, there is very little we could do to help you. So if you are having problems, please tell us before we turn the grades in, which is going to be, a couple days after the last day of class.
Right. Very cool. All right, guys. Well, peace. Fight on.
Fight on.
I'm going to hit the goodbye button right now, and there she is in France. No, that was Italy. Take care. Bye-bye.